You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show.
We're back.
Welcome back, especially to you,
Thank
James.
you guys. Thank you so
you're
much. Bing is for doing, and we are doing the Amazing Race After Show for season 23, episode 4, Beard in the Wind. I'm your host, James Wallington, and with me tonight are
Jessica Carroll and
Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Nichols.
wonderful. The Triple J's are back in the studio.
Got
J
it.
Cubed right here.
I like
And
it.
this episode, what did you think overall? Justin, we'll start with you.
Oh, you're putting me up first, huh? You know what? The others have been so suspenseful, so good. This one, I feel like, has been the slowest so far of the season. There, of course, were some ups and downs. But then, we'll get to it later, but then the ending, I just kind of wanted to throw something at the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was frustrated more than anything of this episode.
I agree. What about you, Jessica?
What I liked about this episode is that it wasn't so much about flights. Because I think that even though flights is, it's like you want to know who's on what flight, but this one, everyone was on the same flight, so everyone was really just competing. And I also liked that Marie kind of got kicked in the butt using her express pass because she kind of waves it around and dangles it, but this episode she got kicked in the butt, and we'll talk about it.
I feel like karma is starting to just
Yeah.
creep up on
Yeah.
her, and I'm going to be curious to see how that's
Right.
going to affect her in next week's episode. But you're right. This one was more focused on one location, one flight. And it was the first time on this whole race so far that all the teams were on one flight, which I also thought was interesting because you'd think that Portugal would be a major airport,
Right.
and there's only one flight to on the top of the world, as Amy said. And I liked it, though, because I feel like an equalizer makes it an even race for everybody.
I wish there were maybe 2 flights, because then those people that worked the hardest and they got to the pit stop first, the first couple of teams, they should get some advantage, because then to have to get up earlier before everyone else
Yeah.
because you checked in first to then wait at the airport longer, that sucks.
That's true, but I feel like that kind of, they were all on the same ferry too, weren't they?
Yeah.
So really, there was really no point to really get ahead other than doing well at that specific task for whether it be the Detour or the Roadblock. So diving right into this, again, the relationship between the dating couple and the married ER doctors, Nicole and Travis and Jason and Amy, is continuing to grow.
They work
It
so
excites
well
me.
together.
Yeah.
And they really want to help each other out. I mean, there's no question. It's almost like the four of them are one team.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I also really liked that Jason and Amy mentioned that they kind of look up to them.
Because their marriage is an
their
inspiration.
their marriage is working so well.
Yeah.
They work so well together, and they're truly best friends too.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a force to be reckoned with, only because there are some other alliances like the Afghanimals and the LA Ice King girls. But there's definitely, I feel like, a weaker team or a weaker member on each of those teams, where these four, they are all such strong competitors that alliance is going to be one to watch out for,
Oh,
for sure.
I
Yeah.
definitely agree, and we've seen on previous seasons of the race that if you do team up with another team, it is possible to have both teams in the final leg of the race together.
Yeah.
So as Jason and Amy called it, it's a little family in the race, and I'm excited to continue to see this foursome progress because at some point they're gonna have to work in their own
Teams,
benefit
yeah.
and
Yeah.
not really help each other out. But I think that they can appreciate that competitive aspect of the game, that we're friends for now, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, both
Yeah.
competing for $1 million.
And it's nice because I feel like they're both couples are very sweet. They're both loved by their viewers, and so it's nice to see them working together as opposed to a team that you love and a team that you hate working together.
Right.
Absolutely.
They're not so much like backstabbing anyone.
Yeah.
They just are in it to win it, and they're very competitive, and the two teams are working really well together.
I agree. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't think we've seen it on the race. I could be wrong, but our loyal fans out there have been really good at correcting us on our
Yes.
YouTube page.
Thank you guys.
I don't know. I think this is the first time, though, on the race that they've been to a country that the sun has never set, which I thought was very interesting. That's like they're at the airport outside the terminal trying to get their taxi or whatever, and it's
Like
11
p.m.
o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And it's still light out.
Yeah.
And there was no taxis. They had to seriously look and wait for taxis.
Yeah.
Few
Yeah.
and far between. Like a team would get lucky here and there.
Right.
Poor Nikki and Kim had to like run and walk the whole way. And I loved that the sun never set because it made things a lot more interesting because it kind of really put in perspective that the race is always on, no matter what
Yeah.
time of day it is, whether the sun
Yep.
is shining or not.
Right. You're still
You're always
racing for your
moving
life,
and you're
yeah.
always competing.
But you did forget. I wish they would have put a little like timestamp
Yeah.
on the bottom of your screen because
Yeah.
I just assumed it was 3 p.m. when in fact it could have been 3 a.m.
Right.
So they arrive at 11 and they have the detour right away. They get off the ferry boat and then they have the detour. And I think this one was hang your head or hammer of the cods.
Yeah.
These were tough. So the hang your head was you have to string the fish heads on these poles. I mean, it was nasty. I thought of you and I was like,
Oh,
I love you, girl. I really do. And I'm not saying that I'm gonna be like loving this challenge. I was like, I wonder if Jessica how she would do on this
I
one.
would have failed at both of these because fish, just in general, the smell and
Yeah.
seeing a dead head fish.
And then the bugs on top of that.
Yeah, and then the bugs, and even Hammer of the Cod. I mean, she had like the biggest bug bite on her forehead. They're carrying like 15 cods. Oh man.
Yeah. And this is one of those where I was kind of frustrated because I feel like if you did Hammer of the Cods without knowing, this one put you way behind compared to Hang Your Head.
I agree. I think at first I thought Hammer of the Cods would probably be the easier
That's what
one
I
of the
thought.
two, but then not only are you climbing this ladder to get these cods, then you have to go to this like little warehouse
Carry
shack
them.
and carry them there and then beat them with this huge mallet or hammer of some sort to make cod jerky.
Oh.
Yeah.
Both
And then
were really gross.
in which,
So
by the way, the Oil Boys, you gotta love them, Tim and Danny from Oklahoma, they
Yeah.
were like eating their
Ew.
jerky as they went along in the
For
process.
some reason, that just doesn't surprise me with those two.
It doesn't surprise me, but I had a hard time. I was kind of peeking through my fingers watching this episode. Oh, I just couldn't imagine
And
the smell.
And for the Hammer of the Cods, they must have been heavier than we thought because the two teams that decided to do this challenge, when walking to deliver their 15 cods, they were really struggling, but it
Yeah.
just looked like skeletons
I
almost.
wonder if it was necessarily heavy or if it was just hard to kind of
Uncomfortable.
hold as many as they were.
Right.
Because that, especially on those two tiny, the baseball wives, they're so tiny and so thin.
Yeah.
And they're like barely dangling these things off their body and they're like, all disheveled with their shoulders
Yeah.
and like just trying to support all of these cods. That I think it was a mixture of just not dropping them and also probably it being heavy.
Yeah.
And also how they had to carry so many around their neck that both teams
Yeah.
kept complaining about their neck. And I have to give these girls credit. Nikki
Oh, yeah.
and Kim, wow, they showed major girl power. And I loved how they kept saying, I better look really strong after this and I better have some huge biceps. And they were just taking all their anger out on those freaking cods when they were hammering it. But they covered in bug bites, bugs all over, carrying dead cods. They actually, the way it was edited, seemed to not even complain as much as Tim and Danny.
Right.
Was that just me, or what did you think?
No, I would agree. I think, but I also feel like Tim and Danny didn't really complain either, but it was more so, I don't know.
Pain and-
Yeah, just more frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last week with your emoji, the
Yeah.
guitar girl. I love that Nikki and Kim just have a great spirit about themselves. They keep a positive attitude. My only worry is, did this challenge put them too far behind to come back? And as we all know, we don't even know at this
Right.
point. So
Well, the last time we saw them, they were at least kind of on the same page with Tim and Danny. So
Yeah.
I could come down to a wrong taxi,
yeah.
something. But which detour would you have done?
You know what? I probably would have done Hang Your Head, only because, you know, my dad took me fishing in Canada every year, and we used to chop the fish up and throw the head. So it's one of those things where gross.
No
I
big
could
deal.
probably-
Like, I've just done this.
I've
and that.
done this. Oh, I mean, I find it disgusting, but I think that's what I'd probably be like, okay, I can do this. Because I'm not, look at me, I'm not that strong. I can't carry that many fish, so I can do a head. Speaking of carrying, how bad did you feel for the Afghanimals? Because if you did the Hang Your Head challenge, you got this nice wheelbarrow as everyone else doing Hammer the Cods had to, like, carry them. But the poor Afghanimals had a flat tire basically 10 feet into the challenge.
Case of bad luck for those two. But I just loved how Amy called them the ass animals. That was my favorite part. Because I feel like Leo and Jamal kind of started off as a strong team. And I remember really liking them. And now they're just kind of losing momentum with me. Like, I find them to be a little bit more annoying now and a little bit too full of themselves. Which is why I think they're not really performing as well as they were at the beginning of this race. I think they're kind of, their head's not in the right headspace when it comes to the race, especially with Allie and Ashley being right there with them.
And I also think in this competition, you really have to work well with your team. And I feel like Leo and Jamal fight nonstop between the two of them. I mean, they sometimes even fight more than the exes.
Right.
I mean, about taxi drivers and you're so stupid and do this and come over here and help me, and it's just, I mean, you have to have a good teamwork with your partner. Otherwise, it's going to affect you.
Right. And that's what I mean about how at the start of this race, they started off so strong. And I
Right.
think they had that amazing race high. Like, I can't believe we're doing the amazing race. And then ever since that pit stop drama from episode 2.
They didn't pay the taxi driver
Yes,
correctly.
I feel like now it's just a buildup of unsettled drama between the two of them. And that's probably why we are seeing more of these outbursts between the two of them.
They're almost looking for someone to blame.
Yeah.
Now, Juno, speaking of outbursts, and at the beginning of the season, they had so many, of course, were the exes, Tim and Marie, and we'd already kind of discussed or wondered, is this part of their story? Like, did anyone else, either watching, listening, or you guys here, think that there was a little chemistry happening this episode with the exes? There was a point where he was carrying the wheelbarrow, and she made a comment that she's like, ooh, that's my little fisherman, you know? And, like, she was just referring to him as they were almost like dating or something was going on there. I don't know. This one seemed a little weird. I was like, either they were maybe a little more together than we thought, or this race is actually maybe bringing them back together.
Right.
Cue the aw.
Yeah, she was definitely like, oh, you're so good at wheelbarrowing. I'm sorry, my head just kind of went in the wrong
It's all right. You can
line to
admit
the
it.
gutter.
You got it.
But I completely agree with you. I saw
There's
it.
a little
She
twinkle in the eye
Yeah, she was
there.
looking back and, oh, you're so good at that. You managed that so well.
Well done. I'm like, when has she ever been nice to anyone?
and then she catches herself and, oh, come on, let's go.
Right. I definitely agree. We've always been questioning their real character on this show and their relationship status. I just feel like it's so forced because I feel like it's a great way to get airtime, especially if you want to be. If you're on the forefront of a story on a reality show, you're probably going to get more airtime. But with these two, again, I agree. I feel like they just came out of the framework a little much with their chemistry this episode, and I'm starting to question how much of an ex they really are.
Yeah.
I want to know how long they were. Do we know how long they were together? Like, I don't even remember at this point.
I think they said I'm gonna have to review the first episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like they were together a while, but for some reason I feel like they said they have been apart for quite a while. I don't remember the exact time, but I remember being surprised by how long
we'll
it was.
have to look that up. Or if you guys know, comment below so that.
Because I don't think they fight a lot. I just think they bicker, like couples do.
Yeah.
So another favorite line during this detour from good old Marie. I don't know if you guys caught it.
I'm looking at it right now.
Something happened with. It was taking longer than they thought, and she goes, "Quote, why me? I'm nice to everyone."
Yes. I caught that. That's right
What?
here.
I couldn't write that down fast enough. I was like, Bitch, who do you think you are? You are
Seriously.
not nice to anyone.
Yeah, she's like, why is this happening? I'm nice to everyone. But I feel like there was
Karma.
kind of a smirk on her face that she knew she wasn't really
Oh, I
being
didn't-
serious.
Ugh.
I feel like she says stuff to just say stuff.
Just to stir the pot.
Yeah,
Part of me loves to watch her
exactly.
suffer. Like just seeing the frustration on her face, I'm like, yeah, karma.
Yeah.
So excited. And the fact that she couldn't figure it out, and then she was debating, okay, should we use the express pass? And my favorite part was when Nicole was going to tell her where the pit stop was.
Oh, right.
And she's like, I'm only going to tell you if you give me the express pass. Well, we don't know what happened, but she did not take the clue, and she kept the express pass so that she can keep dangling in everyone's faces.
Yeah.
Oh,
girl.
Marie. We could do an entire show here
Just
at
on the
AfterBuzz
relationship?
just on Marie. Not even Tim, just on Marie. And we could probably get about 9 million callers to express
For
their
sure.
frustration. So, yeah, there was a lot that detour, and a lot of people jumped ahead. A lot of people got behind. But once you finished either of those challenges, then there was that boat ride to the bridge for the next roadblock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you guys think of this roadblock?
I loved it.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, when you jump off this platform, this plank, when you get that initial catch from the rope, wouldn't that hurt? Because it looks like they're only hanging from their waist, and that's where the rope catches them.
Yeah.
Like, can you? Because when Nicole jumped off of that, she just kind of like free,
Right.
jumped. I was like, that's gonna catch you. Aren't you worried about snapping your back or like a limb? Like,
Well, I think it's like bungee jumping, right?
I'm sure, yeah, I think it's a little bungee in it, but
Yeah.
also I think what they do is if they have you jumping from the side, so the rope has to kind of swing a
Yeah.
little bit. I mean, I'm sure they figured it out. They wouldn't be able to do it, but it did look a little painful, and that water must have been freezing.
Freezing.
See, I would have loved this detour. I love jumping out of things and off things. But jumping or landing and getting dunked in freezing cold
Yeah.
water and then coming back out in the air of freezing cold water,
miserable.
miserable. But you do have an adrenaline. You just jumped off a bridge. So, but just swimming in that water, that would have been the hardest part for me.
I don't know if it was just as far as the editing goes. I was really surprised with this one. No one really seemed to struggle as far as taking that leap. I mean, this was not a small jump by any means, and they all seemed to do it pretty happily.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, the only person that we really saw struggle, and it's the first time he has struggled all season, I feel like, was Jason from Jason
Yeah,
Amy. He
Jason.
couldn't reach the like the pull cord or something.
Right. And I thought of all people, you'd think maybe a girl would have that issue just because they're smaller, they're tinier, and maybe not have as much of like an arm span. So I was surprised that Jason, like one of the biggest
Right.
guys there, like
Yeah.
can't
Couldn't
for
reach it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they rigged him up improperly or something. I don't know. Maybe that's the excuse
Just for
he's
the drama.
probably going with. Absolutely. So that was the next roadblock.
And while they were jumping, they were very supportive. The person on the
Yeah.
boat was, come on, you can do it. I'm so proud of you.
That's probably because they were warm and cozy.
Right.
Yeah, it's
But
very easy when you're in a boat to be that
Especially
supportive.
though, I was blown away by how Brandon and Adam, I don't know which one jumped. Do you guys know which one jumped?
Brandon and Adam, it was actually Brandon.
So Brandon
Yes.
jumped and Adam was full on hand motions on the boat. Go, you got this.
Yeah.
He was showing his support big time.
Very enthusiastic.
And they were.
Yeah.
He was a really good swimmer. Brandon was.
Oh.
I mean, they all did well. But even in those wetsuits, if out here the water's cold, we know like it's hard to swim sometimes in these suits, and he was flying.
I
I
like
think they're
seeing-
proving to be strong contenders, and they're a team that
Yeah.
I
I'm
think they're
excited to see how they do.
I do
Because
too.
that would be a good don't judge a book by its cover story right there.
Yeah.
Because going into it, if I was playing this game with them, I'd be like, oh, there's no way in heck they're gonna go
Yeah.
far.
Right, like the
they're not
jungle
gonna know
guys.
much about the world. But they're really proving to like really be carrying themselves well
Yeah.
through this race.
And it's actually gonna, so far, it's their, techniques that they've learned living in the woods has actually come to their advantage. I mean, knowing how to handle fish and wheelbarrows and
Being cold.
being cold
Yeah.
and swimming. It's really, puzzles. They do a lot of puzzles in the woods, like last episode.
Yeah.
So it's really actually working to their advantage.
Can we go back? I just realized something in my
Of
notes that we
course.
didn't touch on. The drama that happened at the detour between Nicole and Travis, Jason and Amy, and Tim and Marie. You know how Tim and Marie were hanging their fish heads over the pole that wasn't marked with the route marker
gosh, how
flag.
did I forget that?
But Jason and Amy knew that that's what they were doing wrong and just completely blew off Tim and Marie. But as they were running back to their car after getting the clue, they tipped off Nicole and Travis saying, make sure you put it on a pole with the flag. Again, that relationship with the race family, I love seeing that come into play.
I was surprised that Tim and Marie didn't see that.
Yeah.
Only because maybe I would have thought to check either, but the fact that every other team seemed to find it immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just surprised, and I loved that they just couldn't figure it out. And you're right, karma's a bitch, because I just sat there being like, ha, ha,
yeah, I was laughing. Ha ha, you deserve that.
I wonder if there's something in the clue that maybe we didn't see as viewers.
Of course,
because,
yeah.
Again, a lot of the times when a mistake like this comes down, it's just not reading their clue thoroughly. Because I feel like with any sort of challenge on a show, I feel like you kind of get a breakdown of this is what you have to do. Yeah. And they probably had it on a little side card, like in order to complete this properly, you need to put it on a pole with the flag.
Yeah.
And they probably just completely skipped over that part of the.
And as we'll get to in a moment, this is not then the first time this episode that they have kind of messed up with the clues then, because they've fallen behind a lot this episode exactly because they did not follow the rules.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that back up because that was a really entertaining but also important part and a reason why maybe Marie, in waving that express pass all the time, isn't quite working out what she thinks. Because everyone's like, screw you and your express pass. We're not taking your attitude.
Right.
I think it shows that it proves to have friends in a race like this because you can rely on someone to help you. And I feel like Tim and Marie came off really aggressive in the very beginning. Like they've kind of isolated themselves and like, we have the express pass, so if you're not going to help us, we're not going to help you. But now when they need help, no one wants to help them, regardless of even having the express pass. Right. But I think for me, I would still kiss their ass because at some point they're going to probably give it to someone that helped them.
I don't know if I could do it.
I would not.
Don't know.
I would do anything.
We're
going
to be on a team, my dear.
Yeah.
But they have the express pass.
It's not worth it. I want them to, because I just, no.
Yeah. I would piss off too many other teams kissing their ass. So then when another team ever gets some kind of advantage, they're all going to hate you because you're the team that originally kissed Tim Marie's ass.
Yeah.
So, no, I would keep my distance from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't. So anyway, as teams start spreading out distance-wise in this race, they go to... After the bridge jumping, they now have to move this boulder with a truck and a stick shift.
Yeah,
now,
the infamous stick shift has finally arrived.
However, before we even get into it, can I just say how obnoxious I found this product placement this time?
Oh,
here's
so
the thing.
forced.
To all television show producers out here, I understand the need for product placement.
Right.
And oftentimes you'll see a really close-up shot 1,000,000 times of that Ford pickup truck. But the fact that even when it didn't make sense, you had that voiceover on one of the teams saying, wow, this has a lot of power.
Yeah.
Wow, this pickup truck really gets going.
It was an actually good truck.
Yeah. It didn't even have anything to do with the story that was being shown at the time. I was like, this is the most outrageously produced product placement ever. Anyway, that being said, the challenge is with these boulders, to like tow it or something, right?
This would have been hard. They had to, hook up with chains this boulder and move it forward to find the little bag full of coins.
Viking coins.
Yes.
And the clue to where their next pit stop was. So, what did you guys think of this one?
Well, as we learned from Travis, it didn't take much effort with the car because the truck did a good job at just moving it the perfect amount of feet to get the clue. I mean, I like that the stick shift has now come into the race because every season a team has an issue, and this happened to be Allie and Ashley's weakness. But it was pretty a generic product placement challenge thrown in there that I think anyone could have done. I mean, so far everyone's done it, no problem.
Right. The stick shift thing would have nailed me. But I have no idea how to drive that.
Here's what surprised me, though, and I love that these guys probably wouldn't hurt a fly, but Tim and Danny, right? So they had a lot of trouble with the Hammer of the Cods earlier. They had to have known that they were either the last team or the second to last team based on how long they were at the previous challenge. I was really surprised they were so helpful with Allie and Ashley. Yes, I'm sure they're friendly, but when they helped them back up their truck, those guys could have been in last place. And I'm surprised they were like, gee, let us stop when we know we're going to kill this and help you guys out. I don't know. Were you surprised by that?
By Tim and Danny choosing to help
them. But when they might have been in last place, this is not a time to be like, oh, let us help a team stay with us in the race.
Yeah, I guess I was surprised, but again, I feel like it's just their character.
Yeah.
It didn't surprise me because that's just who they seem to be. That they're so, because they were so supportive of Kim and Nikki before they left. They're like, you girls are tough. Like, we give you props for doing this detour. So for them to go out of their way to help Allie and Ashley, I think it just proves that they're gentlemen, especially Southern gentlemen. So
I don't know. I mean, gosh, I like to think of myself as a nice person, but when I see these guys,
Now we see your true colors.
When I
you
see,
don't help anyone.
I would not. I don't know. That would be a perfect opportunity to gain in the race.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a terrible person now after watching this episode.
You should.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Because if I was there stranded trying to use my stick shift,
I would walk right past you.
You would, and
absolutely.
James
but
would
what if
help
it's
me.
Nicole and Travis and Jason and Amy? It's showing that having that kind of camaraderie with another team is useful. Because maybe the next leg you would have issues that, Jessica or I could have helped you with, and then you're like, well, you didn't help us in the last leg, so.
Well, I'm feeling a little ganged up on right now here. There's an alliance happening here in the studio, and I'm not part of this alliance anymore. I see how it is. Now, yeah.
We're the good people team. You're the...
Don't even put me in the Tim and Marie category. Don't even put me there. I swear I'm a nice person, everybody. I just am a fierce competitor. Anyway, though, speaking of fierce competitors, Tim and Marie, they needed an alliance partner at this challenge, the truck pull, because they did a bit of a slip. They got the rock chained up properly. They got the truck pulled out. And then Tim grabs the gold coins and assumes that the clue will be with the coins. However, he's wrong. Because I think the clue was behind the coin.
I think it was like underneath, kind of buried with it.
So I think it's funny that they just got into a taxi and started driving away.
Right, I mean...
And had no clue what they were supposed to do.
Like, who just gets in a car and drives?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
If there's nothing in that bag, don't you think they would have already looked in the bag already to figure out where they were going?
Yeah, I think I would have, before I would driven away, I'd have been like, checking the bag. Oh, there's no clue. We must have missed something.
Yeah.
I think this just shows that Tim and Marie really need to start paying more to detail. They're reading clues without really paying attention to how many fish they have to, string, or picking up the bag and not looking before they get in the car and just driving. I think they just need to take a little more time, read the clue properly, look around, because they're just on the go people, which is great. But if they took one more step and just read it perfectly, or took the time to look around, make sure they weren't missing anything, it would just help them that much more.
You think they'd have time before even going to this route marker in their taxi or walking there, that they'd be rereading this clue over and over?
Right.
Yeah. These two, it's just funny because they started out so strong in the season, and we're starting to see that they're kind of unraveling as the relationship seems to kind of be getting stronger.
Right.
So anyway, that once you do complete this challenge, though, you're off to the pit stop, and you alluded to this earlier. Everyone's kind of racing to this pit stop. It's the Viking Longhouse, and sure enough, I think for the first time this season, Brandon and Adam get in first.
Yes.
I'm so excited for those guys.
I am too. I really like them.
Especially for winning money, too. They won $5,000 each, I believe.
And what they said that they were going to do with the money, he says...
I was shocked by this, by the way.
Yeah, one of them said that he was going to help build his house that he was working on for a year. Yeah. And the other guy said that $5,000 he could live off for a year.
My jaw dropped when I heard that.
How?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a very expensive, extravagant life, and that's what I try to do in a month. It's like, gosh, 5,000 in a year is insane.
Insane. And so I'm rooting for them. Stronger than ever right now, because you're finding out more about these two.
Yeah.
And they have this advantage. They're traveling the world. They're doing things that they've never been able to do before, probably.
Yeah.
And they're winning money that's going to change their lives.
Very excited for them. Yeah, especially, we love our baseball girls. If they would have been given $5,000 in cash, we'd have been like, wah, wah.
Right.
Like, they get that all the time.
Yeah.
But for these two guys, that was a really great first prize. Do you think that prize is definitely set ahead of time, or do you think their producers have a little bit of pull as far as saying, you know what, if we get Brandon and Adam in first this leg, the prize is going to be $5,000.
I mean, I feel like the prize isn't necessarily a factor of the game, so I don't necessarily think it has to be predetermined for legal reasons. I think they could really do whatever prize they want whenever they want.
Because they always seem pretty fitting.
Yeah.
Well,
for
except when Chester and Ephraim won that romantic trip for two. To Sandals Resort.
That's true. That was probably for more of the comedic relief. Because we all got a kick out of that. So.
But this is where, that was so funny. But then this is where it got all weird after that. After they checked in.
Because we only saw the one team check in.
And usually they'll show like the one team check in where they get told that the race is going to be continuing, and then they would edit a little bit more other teams. Not really a lot of downtime at the pit stop, but getting the clue from Phil while they showed the other teams just trying to keep up. Yeah. So we only know that Brandon and Adam go on to the next part of this leg.
Right. We have no idea even where anyone else. We kind of know what place people are in.
Yeah.
But they are just kind of out there right now.
Yeah, because as the teams got into the taxis with their clues and with their coins, they were all racing towards this Viking longhouse. They all seemed to know where they were going except Tim and Marie.
Yep.
And you see them going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And they pass a few teams and they're like concerned. And then, as you were talking about earlier, they pull up to Travis and Nicole. And this is where Nicole finally makes her move.
Oh man, she was fierce. She was bold. She was being angry with Marie.
That tough New Yorker that she was talking about came out all
and I
of a
liked
sudden.
it. I digged it for sure.
I think it was smart. I mean, because you also, at the beginning of the episode, there was an interview with Marie saying, you know, part of us feels like we should give our express pass to Nicole and Travis because they would have won it had they not had that penalty, but then they would be tough competition.
Right.
And
it would be
flash
our
forward to
challenge.
the end of the episode where now this confrontation arises where it's like, is she going to really give it to Nicole and Travis?
I don't know. You know, so she's talking. There seems to be some kind of confusion or debate between Tim and Marie. But then we find out, I was really surprised by this. Marie said no. You know, maybe that was smart because she could just turn the car around and just follow their cab and lead the way. I mean, I don't know. What would you have done, James?
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. They could definitely follow Travis and Nicole's.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
That's what I was thinking is they could just follow them. But what would they do? Like maybe try to lose them and then, I don't know, they're kind of in a...
But I think I think Tim and Marie need to be a little bit more smart about this. If they don't know where they're going, clearly they're missing a clue. And that's part of the rules of the race is you have to check in with all your clues.
That's what I was going to ask you was, because you're kind of our expert here on the panel more than we are, is... I was going to wonder, do you have to have that clue in your hand, or could you just follow that taxi?
That's why I thought it was interesting as far as the story of this episode, because we saw Nikki and Kim freaking out while they were carrying those pods, and I believe it was Kim, and she was like, I lost the clue. And that's why, is because if you check into the pit stop, you'll receive a penalty for not having all your stuff that you were supposed to receive on this entire leg. So I think that's part of it. I think Tim and Marie really need to take a deep breath, reevaluate the situation, and realize they need to go back and get their clue. Otherwise, they're going to incur a penalty, which could cost them the race.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because as soon as this debate happened, the most frustrating moment in television is what happened, of course. The out of nowhere, to be continued. So we have no idea what happens next besides to be continued.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means we have a lot to talk about as far as predictions or guesstimates.
Yes.
But first, though, before we can go into predictions, we want to make sure that everyone is continually going on to iTunes, though, right? And once again, we have been really enjoying the comments this week. We've had a lot of them talking about the show, talking about our AfterBuzz show. So thank you to everyone on YouTube, iTunes for watching us. But make sure you subscribe. AfterBuzz TV. Make sure that you are rating us, of course, as well. We mentioned it's such a fun, we call it fun rivalry, but it's now just trying to turn into more of just a flat-out rivalry between the shows here at AfterBuzz. As far as ratings, they get posted, so please help us out in our rivalry. Give us those 5 stars. We're really close, so we want to thank you. And just make sure you keep on listening and tell your friends. Now we can get into...
I have one more question before we get into predictions. As the expert of Amazing Race, how do they pick the detours and the roadblocks? like the what to do,
What do you mean?
like the actual task.
Like for producers or?
Yeah, like how do they determine what the teams are gonna do? Do you know? I mean, I feel like they come up with the most random things, like move a boulder to find a bag.
That's a good question. I feel like that's part for the
I feel like
creative
there's
department.
just so random.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it's a big combination though, because I've talked to people that worked on other shows, and I think you'd be surprised. A lot of times, it is the tourism like boards from these countries.
Yeah.
Like so the boards of Norway will send Amazing Race Productions this idea of, why don't you guys come here? You guys could do this, 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 or this, and showcase beautiful Norway.
Well,
You know,
I
think
heard.
Stab some fish in the eyeballs.
Because on Kardashians, I hate to be bringing that up, another completely different shows, but
We can't even keep up with 8 teams.
Seriously, now you're bringing in a whole other
But they
family.
were given a trip by this country of Greece, so the cameras would show Greece with the
Sure.
Kardashians. I bet it's probably pretty similar.
Well, actually, going off what you just said, when I went to a reality fundraising event on Saturday, and I met 2 previous racers, and I talked to one of them, and she had told me that the race is a huge production, and that the producers and the creators of the show have strong ties with embassies all around the world.
Really?
Oh.
And the embassies they kind of aid the whole production process and it being successful in each of these countries.
Right.
And so I heard that when they went to Africa on the season that this girl was from, that they had people with guns walking with them at all times. So you just don't see any of that kind of
course,
stuff.
yeah.
So of course I feel like there's a level of safety that goes into all these places, but the embassies really do go out of their way to look out for the teams that are running this race. And that's kind of cool to know that
Right.
it's a whole big production, not just what we see.
And it's international.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very international. That's what I love about this show. But how cool would it be to have a behind the scenes of Amazing Race?
Yeah, because on
So-
Survivor they show how the challenges
Yeah.
are.
Right.
I would love to know how a leg of this show is created.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
And answer
Amazing.
That's what I
and
wanna see.
answer the question, like, how do you determine what the task is going to be at each location?
Yeah. I feel like they just send producers to a location and they're like, here, enjoy your time there, and then tell me what sites that you saw that you enjoyed, and then let's make a challenge out of it. Because they always seem to
Yeah.
go to these little hole in the walls or
Right.
touristy type locations.
That would be
Interesting,
interesting.
I will try to investigate.
Yes.
Come on, James, do it. Come on, Nancy Drew. All right, well, now it's time to get into our predictions.
Predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Predictions. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Good, attaboy.
So I think that we'll see a lot more of Brandon and Adam, and Nicole and Travis, and Jason and Amy. I think the way they're being edited on the show, there's a lot more life to them in this race. I think they're the most rootable team so far because we've gotten to know a lot of their backstory, which makes them more appealing to an audience. I don't know for sure if the last team that checks in on this episode's leg is ultimately going to be eliminated or if they're going to carry on into the leg with them. I believe in previous seasons, when they've done this continuation leg, the last team still gets eliminated. And if that's the case, I really do think that we're going to say goodbye to Nikki and Kim. I think that they're a little too far behind. I don't see them recovering much. And I believe we saw Tim and Danny in the clips for next week, struggling on the next leg of the race. So I think they move forward. So I say we're saying goodbye to Nikki and Kim from this leg, and then on to the next leg at the end of the next episode. That's a tough call.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the Ice Girls again because I just don't see them.
Yeah.
I don't see much more depth to their backstory as much as the other teams right now.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
feel like with the editing, they have like the strong stars of the show and then the kind of the fillers. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know from personal experience.
I completely agree with you. I think we're going to see a lot more of Brandon and Adam, who I'm totally rooting for, my furry friends. Jason and Amy, and then Travis and Nicole. They're strong, very likable, relatable. And I am hoping, I know Nikki and Kim aren't doing too well in this portion, but I really like them. I love their energy and their excitement to this race, so I hope they stay in.
I mean, it could be a non-elimination. It could just be one huge continued leg. And I hope that's the case. So I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
So I'm going to say that because I love them so much, I can't say Nikki and Kim. So I'm going to say Leo and Jamal are the last ones to go in this race or this section. And then I guess that's pretty much it.
You know, I'm gonna actually kind of go off of what you were saying. I agree with you. We're starting to see some relationships get stronger and some starting to ravel apart. And so they may not be eliminated this episode or the next one, of course. But you're right. I think Leo and Jamal, I think their time is kind of winding down. They're slowly falling back. You don't see them gaining a lot. You see them arguing more and more. And so I think that, yeah, you're right. They're going to have problems. I think that Allie and Ashley, you're right. I don't think they're not the worst team right now, but they're not really showing any strengthening like the teams like Travis and Nicole. Stronger and stronger. With Jason and Amy, stronger and stronger every time. Another one I'm surprised, Tim and Marie, they have not been showing great stuff. I don't think they're out. I don't think they're going to be out this episode or the next one.
Yeah.
But who I thought was maybe going to be in the final episode, of course, was Tim and Marie. I'm like, I don't know if they got it. They keep screwing up. So I'm all over the board, but I do think Allie, Ashley, and Leo and Jamal, and maybe the baseball girls.
Well, with Leo and Jamal and Allie and Ashley too, like this
I
is the
know.
first episode that their story of their like that little love
Alliance.
flirtation relationship going on wasn't existent at all.
No.
So maybe it's kind of falling on the back burner because there's not much more life to their story.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm excited to see when Marie is going to use the. I say Marie
Express
because
that.
she basically makes all the decisions.
Wait, it's got to be next episode.
Because yeah,
Why?
they
She's
only
probably gonna have to give it up. It's
Yeah.
like it's
they
episode
they
5.
put a limit to of 5
Oh.
legs.
It might be leg 5.
Oh.
If it's not, if it's one continued leg,
Yeah.
leg 4.
Yeah.
Then no. But she might have to be forced to.
Yeah, but there
use
is a
it.
limit.
Because I want her to get rid of it so that she can stop using it to get information.
Yeah. What is she gonna do without? Dang, that's her only trick right
I
now.
know,
Is to
that's
always
what
say,
I
I
mean.
got express pass.
Well, do you think she's gonna give it up?
She has to eventually.
She has to, right?
I think. Yeah, I think.
But I
next
don't
episode.
think she's gonna do it for
Nicole
to
and
find
Travis.
the Viking Longhouse.
Oh no.
Who do you think she's going to give it to?
I think she's gonna crack and give it to Nicole and Travis at some point.
I think
They're playing it up too much. They're playing it up too much.
I don't know. I think
Oh,
she's.
really?
I think maybe they'll disappoint us. I think they're gonna give it to a weaker team that they're not worried about beating. I think they are too worried about Travis and Nicole later on down the road
Yeah.
to help them out in any way.
I know that Tim and Marie and Nikki and Kim first had this kind of connection because they knew her husband,
Right,
the baseball
from
player.
baseball. Mm-hmm.
And then the baseball bunnies kind of ticked them off at the airport when they got on the standby list ahead of them. But I don't know. I think maybe Tim and Marie might help out the baseball bunnies.
Well, that's when I question though. Tim and Marie are so far ahead, and Nikki and Kim are so far behind that if they never see each other on the next leg of the race, there's really no opportunity for them to give the express pass to them. So that's when I'm also wondering, it's got to be someone in the forefront of this leg that they're going to probably crack and give it to. But I think, like, as far as a game move, it would be advantageous for them to give it
Or
to them.
unless they really don't figure out the Viking Lodge or what is it? The Viking.
It is the Viking Longhouse.
Maybe they don't figure it out, and Nikki and Kim are kind of the last people, and I don't know, run into each other, and they have to give it up to finally figure out what the pit stop is.
That's a good point.
We will see. But also, what do you guys think? As I
Yeah.
mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, our friends on YouTube, we've had a lot of comments. Our friend on YouTube, Ace, was saying that he loved your 405 comment last week and he thought you were hilarious. But to all of our viewers on YouTube, to our listeners on iTunes, let us know. We're always guessing who's going to be first and last. We're oftentimes wrong. So I love it if someone else came out and gave your opinions as well.
Yes.
So we're not the only ones losing at this
Yeah.
game right here. So let us know.
Clearly, there's no
Comment.
wrong answers.
No, it's anyone's race.
Yeah.
Except whatever I say, it's always wrong. So where can they find you all?
They can find me on Twitter at James Wallington and on Instagram at Mr. James Wally.
And you can find me, Jessica Carroll, on Twitter, Instagram, all of them at JessXOXOCarroll, RRL.
I like how you the whole thing.
Yeah.
Say it. What is it?
JessXOXOCarroll, RRL.
Yes.
Got it. Mine's not nearly that much. Nearly as fun, but you can find me on all social media apps at Justin J Nichols. That's 1J, 1
Nichols.
and Nichols. I have nothing cool to say about that. But follow us.
CH.
Sure. Yes, CH. All right, there we go. Well,
Thank you guys.
It's been a long day.
long day.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later, alligator.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.